These days, there's an abundance of information about spiritual development that is available to all of us. We can read ancient texts on our Kindle, listen to the teaching of ascended masters, and get quick motivational boosts from TikTok influencers. But what does it feel like to try to apply spiritual practices to life today? In this audio recording, we invite you to listen in on a conversation between two people who are trying to figure it out for themselves. Kat Bayer is a sound healer based in Arkansas. I'm a painter based in Boston. We are both very interested in understanding the true nature of reality and how we can work towards becoming fully realized human beings. The two of us met less than a year ago through a few online groups, starting with Generation Z, which is run by Dave Rossi. This conversation was recorded in mid-December of 2023. If you're doing your best to find your way through the challenges of normal life, we invite you to join us as we share our experiences with life-work balance, meditation, energy fields, trauma, technology, and the importance of visualization.
I'm still stalling getting the most. I know at my heart that if I get all my paperwork done, if I get rid of the extra stuff in my house, if I really organize my house. In other words, my mind is clear. I'm not thinking, oh, I got to do that. Oh, I got to do that. What about that? What about that? I'm not scattered right now. I'm still scattered because I don't have myself completely organized, and I get too much stuff around me that makes me feel like this.
Yeah.
And if I could just get that done and out, but it's a lot of very time consuming little things, going through
Yeah.
file cabinets, going through
Yeah.
files, figuring out which fabric I want to keep, figuring out which machines, sewing machines, how do I sell them? And how do I clean out my garage? For some reason, I've been storing empty boxes that fill up half my garage. Why do I do that? I have no clue. And it's this fear of maybe if I have to move again, at least I'll have these boxes, and there's these background fears that kind of play out in little ways that kind of like, oh yeah.
It's interesting you call them fears because I do that too with boxes. Like I just got some boxes. I got something from Amazon and I put the box in the basement. But I don't connect it as a fear. I connect it with being like preparing. But maybe that is more closely tied to fear.
Well, the boxes for me are more about moving. I also
Yeah.
store containers.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that's more about if the electricity goes out, if there's some kind of natural disaster,
Yeah.
there's always these looming threats of things going on. Now, we don't know if they're going to happen or not, but if the financial system goes down or if the electricity goes out and people can't buy things and they have to start, growing food and sharing things, the one thing everybody's going to miss is containers,
Yeah.
you know, for water, for food, for this, for that. And I
Yeah.
thought that would be a good bartering item too, you know?
Yeah. It
Silly.
is, yeah, I guess it is it's like preparedness because it's like you're imagining a future where there's a lack and so preparing for it. But that is kind of rooted in I guess in fear.
Fear.
Like those
Yeah.
roots ultimately connect to fear in some way.
What's the saying? Um, look, expect the best, but plan for the worst.
Yeah.
So I'm a planner.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm both spontaneous and a planner. And so, like, which side of my brain am I on at the time?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but in the context of building the life you want to build, there's a lot of I think I have that too. I think in a way like that's something that I think we're all struggling with probably more and more because of how we're kind of being trained for having to constantly be handling a lot of things. I mean, it's not like human beings in modern society haven't had a lot of things to handle, but like there's so many finer points because we have this like physical world and this virtual world, and they're so intertwined, and there's so many things because of that, because there's like smaller and smaller ways of communicating and keeping track of things and keeping things updated. There's so many things. So like just feeling settled and grounded and like on a clear path can be really hard.
Well, especially for people like me, like you're more focused and I'm all over the place. I have,
Yeah.
like you said, I have so many interests and I always am thinking about how am I going to ring myself in,
Rein them in.
rein
Yeah.
myself in.
Yeah.
Um, So, and then the thing about containers is I hate waste. I hate throwing things away that still have a purpose.
Yeah.
I'd rather give them away or something, but putting
Yeah.
them in the trash feels like such a waste and it fills up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point because that's also like what's also happening is that, I think that's partly connected with this ridiculous like title of consumer. Like we're consumers, but I mean, I think it's very uncomfortable. Like I get it, but I think it's very uncomfortable because we're benefiting from, paying and getting things, but then we have this awkward responsibility of the material of the box or the jar, the container, and then what to do with it. And we know that it's not necessarily being recycled responsibly, or like where is it going. So the idea of like a squirrel like holding on to it for the future, like it makes sense, but then it has a knock-on effect of accumulating and becoming feeling like a hoarder, and that's uncomfortable. So it's like it's part of it. I think is the challenges of living in this society, and the benefits of this society also have a cost, and that's emotionally and psychological weight.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I don't keep things that have no use. Um, but there's a I have gotten rid of so much in the last few years, through different moves, not few years, but like the last 10 years,
Mhm.
different moves. I've moved from uh hold on. Oh, we just didn't. I have a pop-up window.
Yeah.
Um, I have moved so many times from a much bigger house to a smaller house to having to fit everything in a moving truck. Because at one point it was a 4-bedroom, like 3-story house. Well, the garage was on the lower level with the pool and, on acres and, things accumulate, over years. And then, yeah. So, and then, and then once I moved here, well, anyway, I'm of the opinion that if I get anything new, I have to get rid of something,
Mm. As
you
an
know,
yeah, as an approach that makes sense.
right. And I regularly clear out, but there's a few things that, well, back to what I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
one block is how do I clean these things out? Like the time consuming, like all the paperwork and clean up my computer.
Yeah.
And, I've got an abundance of fabric from my yoga wear and I love it all. And I'm thinking, how do I get rid of this? And if I keep my sewing machines, I need to keep the fabric. If I get rid of the sewing machines, what am I going to do with the fabric? Well, I'll get smaller machines, but then I don't need this much fabric. So these things go,
Yeah.
round
Yeah.
and round
Yeah.
and around. And those
Yeah.
are the things that consume me when I really want to be focused on starting my business, on things that matter to me,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
getting healthier and healthier, getting to the gym and working out. Now that I'm done with my fast, I'm going to start getting to the gym regularly to kind of like tighten up some skin and get strong and build some muscles. It feels good. It feels so
Yeah.
good when I'm healthy, you know?
Y- your your attitude doesn't sound drastically different, but it sounds a little bit different. Like the fast that you did, like I it really sounds like you've gained um some vital energy, some motivation. Like it felt since that sounds like it felt good for you.
I lost 10 pounds,
Huh?
maybe 9, I don't know. You gain a little bit back when you break your fast. Um, and then so I just feel lighter. But even before I fasted, I started feeling a little bit lighter. I don't know if it's what's the energy is hitting the earth. There's something going on. Um, maybe all the talks, not just with us, but with the other group. When you do emotional clearing, I think it kind of lightens you up too.
Hmm.
You
That's
feel
true.
emotionally light. You just I feel physically lighter too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels good to, like I was on the phone 4 hours yesterday with a friend who really needed somebody to talk to.
Mhm.
So it got, in the way of what I really wanted to achieve yesterday. By the time I was off the phone, I was tired. I had to do this, I had to do
Mm.
that because there was only so many hours in it. That was the 4 hours I planned to put my planner together.
You had a 4 hour talk? Wow. Yeah.
But that's okay because
Yeah.
I've been through it before.
Yeah.
I've been through needing, and my sister was the kind one then.
Yeah.
uh, I just had to vent and vent and vent because I just had so much confusion and so much stress. I would just let it all out, and she couldn't even get a word in edgewise. And finally, she says, "Kathy, this is verbal diarrhea. Stop it." I thought that was hilarious, you know, and it was true, and it helps. It's been helping these last few years to learn how to communicate, to learn how to stop,
Mm.
listen.
Hmm.
So, that wasn't a skill I had for a lot of years.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean that is an important skill, definitely. To live in our to live with other human beings. Yeah. That kind of rhythm. Yeah, I know I mean I'm familiar with that too. That kind of where it's just pouring out. And sometimes that's really important, but it's also in that situation, where the other person at a certain point can say, okay, like I need to balance the ship a little bit here. It's been one direction for a long time, and also it can be a little splash of cold water, on the person who's venting, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
But want to know the thing is that I noticed, and I never realized, well, two things. Number one, if you talk too much about yourself, people get tired. People don't really want to listen, but they want to be heard. So I thought,
Yeah.
well, if nobody wants to listen to me, at least I can listen to them.
Yeah.
Number one. Um, I forgot what the other thing is
Well,
about.
but it also
Mhm.
feels good. Let's not forget, it also feels really good, or can, feel really
That,
good to be there for somebody.
yes, but that was the other thing you
Yeah.
reminded me of it. By spewing all the stuff, it
Yeah.
made me feel worse, not better.
Oh,
Because it
really?
like got it's like
Yeah.
it built it up in me.
Yeah.
It didn't release it. It just brought it more present. That
Uh,
hurt, that
yeah.
pain, that
Yeah.
frustration, that anger, that anxiety. It just made me feel worse. And so when I got done doing that, I like, I
Yeah.
just felt awful. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, this isn't the way to release something. Not for me.
Right.
Not for me.
That reminds me, not to get into a whole thing, but it reminds me a little bit of, it sounds like what can happen with therapy.
In what way?
I mean, I've done it a little bit, and I've gone different times in my life and sat with somebody and talked, and I found it can be, fascinating to get that kind of perspective, like a good conversation, but with somebody who has an understanding of um, human
Release?
psychology. It, I think it can be very helpful, but at the same time, it seems like over a long period of time and constantly returning to things that feel like problems and are issues and other people, and just constantly churning through it, like you just said. I think it sounds like, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but my
Victim
impression,
mentality.
yeah, it can have negative effects too, because we here's the thing: we know that memories are not just stored in boxes in our mind, they are recreated every single time we're accessing them.
Mhm.
So by regularly reaccessing and revisiting and ultimately changing and empowering memories, that's changing us. So that's why I say I don't want to get into it, but like what you just said about, you know, um, having all this stuff come up and sharing it with your sister and how you felt about that. It sounds like it's also because you're kind of like re-energizing and filling yourself back up with these things. But hopefully, I guess ideally, there's like a cause and effect. There's like a process of like blah, and then it's out. Like that's the goal. It's just get it out. And if you're with somebody, who can really kind of feel
Redirect.
heard and addressing things, then that can kind of lighten you up, which is I think the goal every time we have a conversation.
Yeah. And I think our conversations are very, very, very balanced, and supportive.
Yeah.
And, I think if years ago I had somebody that said, okay, I hear you, what are you going to do about it?
Mm.
You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
then change my frame of reference, because I think I was still very deeply in victim mentality,
Mm.
you know, and I kind of was brought up that way in that kind of a
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
So, how do you break years of a way of thinking
Yeah.
to get out of that paradigm and into a new paradigm? And
Yeah.
I logically knew we created our own reality, but
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
And how do I, shift these very deep core, I don't even want to call them beliefs, but they had to have been a deep belief, even if I wasn't, consciously acknowledging them, for them to be playing out that way,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And I think it takes persistence. Every time you see your mind going in a certain direction, I have to say, no, you're not creating that anymore.
Yeah.
No.
I guess another word in this case would be perspective.
What do you mean?
Well, because you're talking about beliefs,
Hmm.
upbringing, and how that shaped us, and how to like change that. And I'm wondering if like the word perspective is synonymous here because we
What?
have all these influences and experiences that shape us in our understanding of things, and then when we get stuck, I think what we're oftentimes, generally speaking, looking for, I feel like for myself too, in this moment is like a change of perspective. What I want, I think what I want emotionally is for some sort of solution to present itself that I'm not already aware of. But maybe the same what is actually needed isn't that it's shifting my perspective just a click so that I see opportunities that I was just not uh, not, were not visible before.
So I journal when I have questions like that
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
more than I did before. You're a painter. Um, I wonder if you could find a way to paint in a way that answers, like free paint, without knowing what you're going to paint in advance.
yeah. It's something. Look, so let me tell you, it's something that I do, um, and most of the time when I do that, I end up getting to a point where I feel like I'm just sort of spending like these tubes of paint. It's like all right, I'm just wasting money, but I give myself the space to say just pushing what I call in my head. I'm just pushing paint around. It feels good. So sometimes I just say, you know what, I'm just going to push some paint around with no expectations, and I'll chuck the thing if it's just um, a big mess. And I have on my wall a couple of things on my wall right now that's what I did. I just said,
What were
I
you
just need to
thinking
push it
when
around.
you painted?
What's
What were
that?
you thinking when you painted? Do you have your question in mind when you're painting?
Yes, yes and no. Yes and no. Yeah. Like for example, I have one thing where it's a project I'm working on. Mostly I do sketching when I because that's a way to kind of it's just using a pencil line or a digital line to explore something and not have any like real I guess you could say costs involved. But then there's something very different about painting. Oil paint and a brush, it's physically different. And there is a genuine, I think, what's the word, somatic, cathartic experience. So I give myself permission to do that. But yeah, so I'm down for that. But I also don't do it with the expectation that I'm going to do this and I'm going to get a solution out of it. Because if I go in with that intention, then I get very annoyed and frustrated that
Well,
that I
that's where the allowing comes in.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So I could do it more. I could do it more, but it's a great idea. It's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Or start with sketching. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what
But
do you
I
feel
think writing, sorry, but just to say, I think writing is also very helpful too. To I think because if something is conceptually like a narrative about life, then I feel like writing or making lists or something like that can be very helpful too, like you do. Yeah.
do you I don't like calling it automatic writing. I just call it journaling. But
Mhm.
I started out by doing right hand, left hand writing. I
Mm,
would write the question with my right hand and
mhm.
write the answer with my left hand.
Oh wow.
And it doesn't matter um, if you think it's just your imagination writing, you just have to start writing.
Yeah.
And even if you ask the question and answer your own question, you'll find a time that you'll notice something, you writing something that is that feels different than your own voice.
Mm,
And there's a wisdom in it. And
mm,
I'm assuming it's my higher self, you
yeah.
know. Uh so yeah, it's a really, and now I do everything with my right hand because I'm able to just let it flow. And sometimes I know it's me because I just want to keep flowing, just keep writing, keep
Mhm.
writing, keep writing. And then a little phrase like go, like one word will pop into my head and I'm going, go where? And it says go, and oh, okay. So then I start realizing there's a message coming through,
Mm,
and sometimes it'll stop and I'll stop and I'm waiting for the next word or what makes the most sense, based upon where and then if I write that word, yep, that's right, keep going. Now, it's not how most people do it. Most people just hear complete full sentences and they've got clear messages from beginning to end. I kind of like interpret along the way, and maybe that's not automatic writing, but a lot of stuff that's come through that way has actually been foreign when I wrote it down. Like, I know this isn't me. And it did come to pass like a year later or in
ah,
one way or another. It was very wise. And, so I don't know how it works. Maybe it works differently for everybody. But if as long as you remain open, so when I go back through my journals, I can kind of tell, oh no, that's me trying to figure something out. And then when I go back, after the initial writing, I'll kind of like put a big square around something that I know wasn't me,
mm, mm.
you know?
So I tried that last week, but I didn't try with my left hand. I think that's interesting to try with your non-dominant hand. And it just ended up being scribbles. But maybe again, it's another thing that takes practice, that you don't just sit down and expect it's going to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just me journaling the whole time.
So when you do it and you're getting information, it sounds is it I'm just curious, like, are you getting scribbles and then words popping up in the scribbles?
I don't scribble.
So,
Like that's like a remote viewing technique where you scribble first and then you see where the pen takes
well,
you.
no,
And
because if you're saying that you're writing and the words are kind of coming out, how are you um, getting that moving, right? Like if I'm trying to do that, if I'm writing a word, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to write a word. What am I writing? If I
Mhm.
want it to flow through me, I need to turn that off and I need my hand just to go. So
Oh
then I'm
no,
just getting
my
scribbles.
mind is involved. My mind is involved. I know they say that's not how you're supposed to do it. But we all have our own ways, and um we all have our own ways. And I don't turn my mind off. I don't close my, well, sometimes I close my eyes. When I am writing something and the sentence won't complete, I'll put a dot, dot, dot and start over. And sometimes I'll say a little, because in Sufism we learn to pray. I'll say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. So I just put that at the beginning of the line,
Okay.
but I just put BLRR, because that's it for short,
Okay.
and dot, 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 and then I see, and I start over. And if I write something that just feels like it's an interference, you can feel whether something feels true or doesn't feel true, whether, you know what I mean? So I, if I see something that I wrote that feels like nonsense, I just put a big X through it, and move on. And so I allow myself to start over. But otherwise, when I come to a point where I hear something, but I don't know the next word, um, I just pause for a second and another word will come into my head. And then, but if it doesn't, I do dot, dot, dot and start over,
Okay.
you
Right.
know,
So it sounds like the prayer is a way to kind of
clearing.
like get it flowing, get the siphon
It's a
flowing.
way for me to do a reset in a way,
Hmm.
like get rid of any interference that might be blocking my message, because, and I should be, doing a clearing technique before I even write, you know, but
Mm.
I'm in my comfy chair, in my
Hmm.
comfy spot, and
So what
it's
would you do? What would
second
you,
nature now.
so what do you do to clear?
Well, I don't clear as much as I should. I feel clear, you know what I mean? So, um, I have clearing techniques written on my phone from James Gilliland. Um, there's other things that, instead of going through somebody else's technique, many times what I'll do is just, because sometimes I feel interference, like, oh, this isn't me. Oh, this is strange.
Ah,
There's something here that's not me. And so I'll imagine a big light in my heart, and just let it get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then it go, and then
mm,
just expand it outward, expand light outward, push anything that's not me, however, out of my existence, out of my vicinity, and create a protective bubble around me.
wow. All right.
It's like a quick visualization, like
Sure.
get out,
Sure.
now I'm clear,
Yeah. Yeah.
so without going through all of different languages and different
Yeah.
affirmations and stuff. Yeah.
That's cool. I want to talk about that some more. Something that I'm working on is my imagination. The irony for me is that when I was a kid, I think like most kids, and my imagination was something that was so present and a part of my life. Again, like most kids. And as a little art kid, I would draw a lot for like entirely from my imagination. And I actually one time I think I actually put it on my wall. My parents were so accepting of me and my creativity that I did little murals on my wall in my room. Like I painted them. And I think I actually did one that said imagination because I just really identify with that word. Cut to many years later, and I'm pretty sure that that's atrophied significantly, and probably part of the reason for that is the abundance that I'm looking at on screens and taking in all the time. And there's always a rationale for why I'm doing it, but ultimately, I'd say that like one of the most dangerous things around social media is that it's just the scrolling of just taking in flick, 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 because that's the sort of the antithesis, right, of sitting and being bored and letting your imagination be there, having that connection to it. I say all of this because one of I think the most profound awakening um, aspects of waking up to the larger reality is how important our imagination is and how real it is. So what you just described, I think for most people, most of the time, unfortunately, sounds like a cute thing. You just it's a comforting thing that you're doing. I'm in a place like you where I'm understanding that's a real thing, that you are really doing that and it's having a real effect. So yeah, imagination.
You know, uh, those who've done research realize that your body, your brain, your consciousness, well, your awakened conscious mind, does not differentiate between reality and imagination.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So, how does that play into this energetic stuff that we're doing with our imagination in our head?
Yeah.
And why is imagining this different than saying, I clear, I call in all the angels to keep the space clear, or whatever your invocation is, in the name, if you're, regardless of your religion, everybody's got some kind of a
Yeah.
ritual to kind of clear the space, I think, even if they don't practice it or know it word for word.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I don't know the answer to that, obviously, but it like yeah, and I'm still trying to understand that in terms of how important is it to visualize, because that there's a whole school of understanding around the specificity of the visuals, um, versus other ways, like you're talking about writing it. And I don't know, but something that is being has been impressed upon me that I'm paying attention to is that the most important thing is the feeling.
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But
yeah.
I mean, are you differentiating between feeling and emotion or the same thing?
I think it's the same thing.
Good, because I think so too. I think that's one of our most powerful creation mechanisms. And, the only thing is it can't control us.
Yeah,
We have to control it
yeah,
and feel it completely.
yeah,
But if it's a negative emotion, what can you do with that energy to channel it to something to help you?
yeah. That's a great point.
And
Yeah.
so we have to find a way. I don't think we should shut emotions out.
Mhm.
Sometimes you kind of, with all the nastiness going on in the world, you kind of have to put up a block because there's only so much you can do, and so much, that stuff is so impactful and
Yeah,
painful,
yeah,
so you can't live in pain. So you
yeah,
kind of have to create this block. But other than that, I think we should just feel whatever we feel, but be the observer as we're feeling it,
yeah,
you know? Because if you're the observer, you can see the effect that it has on you. Is it helping you? Is it not helping you? What's it doing? Where's it going? What do I do with it? But most people just want to, wah,
mhm,
and I I think that is what I used to do.
mhm,
And it's destructive,
mhm,
the negative stuff.
mhm.
Of course, if you're happy and joyful and you want to share it with the world, that
That's
affects
fine.
you
Yeah,
around you too.
yeah,
But
that's
that's
fine.
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, the inherent challenge, and again, everything that we're talking about, there's gurus with infinite wisdom that have already addressed this, but it does feel like there's a difference between, reading, uh, um, what's it, what's his name, Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching. Is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, Tao Te Ching. I was making it as the I Ching, right? Which is just gorgeously inspiring. But then to feel like in the day to day, in the thick of it, which is where we are, that the challenge is what it feels like it is maintaining, and we're talking about manifesting it, coming back to manifesting again, is maintaining that emotionally positive state, because we know that the universe reflects back the state that you're in, um, when you're dealing with all the things that we have to deal with. That's the challenge. At least that's what it feels like for me. I think for most of us is the challenge is the emotion, imagination, like imagining, like you're talking about with clearing yourself, and how much imagination is a part of making the life we want, and staying positive, because we know that that's what's going to come back to us, while at the same time the infinite number of things that we have to take care of and deal with on the day to day. I feel like that's where it becomes so difficult, because the feedback is not necessarily going to be, I want to feel good. I get goodness back to me. Most of the time we're feeling like I'm trying to feel good, but all these things I have to take care of, and this is looming on the horizon, and That's tough. It's tough.
That's how a student takes time to get the deeper lessons, not only, in an hour meditation, but throughout their whole life. You
Yeah.
can't ever, all of these lessons we're learning have to be somehow be absorbed and processed and become a part of us.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how the trauma, where the trauma release comes in. You gotta, the old memories, old traumas, but also old useless, memories that just lead us down the wrong path. And when I mean the wrong path, I mean they don't lead us to balance and joy
Right.
and
Right.
happiness.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's taken me years of stopping my thought process and saying no. Or, I literally just say, if I say something that could manifest something the wrong way, I just say cancel, no. And I try to restate it in a
Hmm.
positive way, not a negative of a positive. Like, I don't want to go there, I'm going here, you know, and that doesn't happen overnight,
Yeah.
especially. And so when I come across people, I'm slowly learning to not, what do they think of me? What am I going to say? Me, 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 me. I'm thinking, what am I feeling right now? And what are they feeling right now? And I wonder how they're doing, you know? So, that's growing up with a narcissist, everything is me, me, me.
Yeah.
So, when I grew up, people, we didn't even know what each other were doing in our
Yeah.
lives. We just all kind of lived in the same home, doing our own thing. And, so, and also negative self-talk,
Yeah.
So each time I try to be the observer as I go through life. And that I think is the key to change,
Yeah.
is being the observer of yourself, of your life, of your choices, of your feelings, of what's coming in, of what you're sending out. What is my effect on other people around me? And I have learned that I have a really strong effect on people around me. And in some of my classes, I learned that without realizing it, I allowed my energy field to just be way out there. So
Hmm.
wherever I went, if I was feeling in a good mood, people were feeling in a good mood. If
Hmm.
I was in a bad mood, all of a sudden people were not, like so happy.
Hmm.
And other people told me the same thing. When you walk in the room, whatever your energy field is powerful. And so then I didn't know what to do with that information. But years later, I was in a class that talked about bringing your field back into yourself, and just, it's yours. It doesn't, you can expand it out if you want, but just keep it to yourself. And that gives you more energy, and you feel yourself more. Like, if you want to know what people are thinking, you can extend your energy field out, and there's this transfer happening.
Hmm.
Um, but if you just need your own space, even in a crowd, if you consciously keep your energy field to yourself, you're less effect. Like, if you're a really sensitive person, being in a crowd can be awful.
Yeah.
I'm kind
Yeah.
of sensitive that way, and
Yeah.
probably because, I'm a bit of an empath. So I stay away from crowds. But if I'm conscious of it when I'm in a crowd, I can keep my peace
Mhm.
by keeping my energy to myself.
So can you clarify how do you do that? We're talking about imagination again, what we would call imagination? Yeah.
Visualization. Yeah,
Okay.
I use
Sure.
imagination,
Are
visualization.
we saying that imagination and visualization are the same thing?
Um, Pretty much, I guess. Maybe imagination can be all encompassing. Visualization is you see a picture, right?
Hmm. Okay. I guess I guess the reason I'm asking is because, and I don't want to get off topic, but I feel like either way, to be clear that we're talking about like an internal um, depiction. I guess
Yes,
it could be a feeling too. It doesn't just have to be visual, but
all of it. Yeah.
yeah.
You
Okay.
imagine, you
So you're
imagine
talking
an
about with your
energy.
energy field. With your
Uh-huh.
energy field, you are
Bringing
visualizing
in.
slash imagining it smaller around your body.
But it's also physically happening, you know,
But what's causing
that
it to happen physically is your
my
imagining,
intention,
your
my
intention.
my visualization
Yeah,
with feeling and my intention
yeah,
bring my field in to
yeah,
myself.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the same principle. If you can't stop thinking about an old bad experience, I kind of did this with somebody the other day, and she says, "Oh no, I'm over that," and she just keeps saying she's over it, she's over it, she's over it, but every word coming out of her mouth is filled with disgust and anger, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
So
it's
it's
like
not.
you're not over it.
Yeah.
But you know, and I tried to help, and she says, "I told you I'm over it," but I'll just
Mhm.
share
Yeah.
what I shared. If you can picture yourself, you know, and your energy, and the person you're thinking about and their energy, and you imagine the cords, the energetic cords between you, and you feel all the emotion, you feel strongly, 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 like anger, you know, frustration, you know, blah, you know, whatever it is that you're feeling, put that in that cord, cut the cord,
Wow.
and
So
then
specific.
let whatever theirs go back to them, whatever yours go back to you. You get more energy because you're not your body's not putting out energy towards that any
Hmm.
longer.
Mhm.
And you know, there are people who can attach to you on purpose, you know, and they know they're doing it, but you can cut that cord too. I'm not saying, you know, everybody's doing things on intention, but some people know how to do that. Uh, but yeah, and so then you know, heal your, oh, and then I said, um, now as you, maybe some of the things that was his actually came out of you and returned back to him. Now imagine that those are now filling with light or love or a happy memory. And, you know, then you kind of now feel whole, filled with energy. You remember those bad experiences, but there's no emotion to it anymore. And, you know, and so now, and if there's any ugliness left in you that feels like it's attached to that, imagine it like a cloud or whatever, and blow it away, or let it make it, turn it into dust and let it drop into the earth. But just fill your, wherever those spots are, fill yourself with light, and then laugh and be joyful, and watch a comedy movie or go for a walk in nature, whatever, and like really get that solidified in you that I'm good, I'm whole, you know, I'm fine.
So Kat, what you're describing here with um, yeah, visualizing cutting the cord, um, when you're doing that, when you do that, is that something where you're like outside and you're around people and you maybe are having that feeling because you're going to someone's house or an office, let's say, and you're having that feeling? Are you doing it right then and there? You're imagining it, or is it something that like at the end of the day you go home, you meditate, then you're kind of then you're focusing on a span of maybe 15 to 30 minutes, and then you're imagining that cutting, or is it a different scenario?
Well, this was more of a one emotion trauma that was plaguing somebody. It would be more in the setting of, you know, if you sat with your counselor, they could guide you through it.
Mhm.
You could sit there in your chair and do it in 5 minutes. You
Okay.
know, you don't have to take a long time, but you do have to understand and believe what you're doing, you know,
Yeah.
and feel it strongly. Because,
Mm.
you know, you have to feel it and then cut it, you know, and then let everything go back to the person it belongs to. And
So for example, you were talking about how you realized or came to understand that your energy field was affecting other people because it was very wide open. Um,
mm,
oh, I guess you gave the example that you consciously brought it back. Um,
there's that too, but there's also how to protect your own energy field.
right.
You know, like so I people have different techniques. You know, there are always going to be people we're always connected to by DNA, and
Yeah.
people we love, and you
Yeah.
know, things we don't want to let go of,
Yeah.
that are healthy for us. But if you imagine, one way to create a field, a protective field around yourself, is you ground to the earth. You grab light from the sun or from uh, central sun, or where does it come from? Because I know that there's this light in the heart that is the source, and that's where I think our connection to source is.
Mhm.
But basically, you're creating this field around you, you know, this toroid around you,
Mhm.
and then there's an egg around the toroid that is basically your energy field.
Mhm.
And there's multiple. layers to this. But what I do is, especially when I'm in public, I pull the field in. But regardless of whether it's small or large, I put a mirror on the outside of my field
Hmm.
so that anything that I don't align with or that is negative doesn't even see me. They only see themselves.
Wow.
Anything they direct towards me just bounces right back to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's different ways.
No, I think that's so cool. I think it's so cool. I that's so cool. Like I can, I think one of the things that's fun about this time we live in is that we're surrounded by, superhero movies and stuff like that. So what you just described is like it's not only visual, but it like magically and logically makes sense. So if there was a CGI special effect, scene, like it's very easy to imagine that what you just described and that and how that um, would actually work. Um, so how often do you do that?
When I feel something is off.
Mm,
There are times that sometimes when I'm really tired and fatigued, I got to look, where is that coming from? Is somebody draining my energy or am I feeling a negativity? It's kind of it's very, very subtle, you
mm,
know,
sure, yeah,
and this is where observation comes in. What's me, what's not me?
yeah.
And when you know what you feel like, when something is there that doesn't feel like you, it's like, oh, and then I definitely do the light thing, push everything out that's not me and create a protective barrier.
Yeah, that's I think that's also something I can speak to being really, really challenging is understanding and finding that space, that being able to differentiate at that subtle level. I think I probably, like most people, um, have some kind of awareness, but it's like a very broad threshold. Whereas what you're talking about, I think, is so incredibly finite, but
It
perceptive. But it takes a lot of practice, I guess, or intuitive
Yeah,
connection.
yeah, I think it does take practice. And it's the same thing with journaling. You can feel if it's you or not you. And it's like and you can feel the very specific frequencies, like, oh, I know who that is, because each person almost has an individual. I'm not that good at it, but my Sufi teacher, I can feel his energy if it's present. And, absolutely know.
And just to clarify, um, with your CP teacher, that was when you were in the same space, or do you mean like
Even
theoretically,
now, even
even
now.
now? Yeah.
And I haven't seen him in person for many years now.
So what's an occasion where you might
And
feel
he's
his
in
energy?
Germany.
Okay. Yeah.
What are you saying? What
What's
was
an
your
occasion where you have noticed his energy, like he's visiting you or something, or when you talk over Zoom?
Well, no, I mean, I don't feel it often. Sometimes if I'm journaling, sometimes if I wake up from it, I'll have some dreams and I'll feel into the experience. Um,
Hmm.
it's not often, but I know when it's him.
Have you confirmed that separately, like gotten in touch with them and confirmed that?
Uh, I started knowing how it felt when I was actually many years face to face weekly, maybe one or two times a week, seeing him in person, either in class. I've spoken to him personally, face to face, and seen him in some other occasions. So I I have not confirmed it, but I don't need to.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's absolute as far as I'm concerned
Right,
because
but you know why I'm
knowing,
asking that question.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. That's cool that you have that sense. I want to develop that better.
Well, again, it's practice. It's knowing who you are.
Yeah,
It's knowing how you feel all by yourself. I
right.
once had a friend that I took a meditation class with, and at the same time when our Sufi teacher was present, but that's kind of not really the point. I was sitting next to her, and she, all of a sudden, I started feeling claustrophobic, like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here now, you
Mm.
know? And I'm thinking, this is strange. I don't, you know? And when I left, and later on that evening we spoke, she said, Kathy, I had to get out of there. I had to get out of there right then. I'm thinking, oh, now I know where that came from.
Mm.
So, I didn't know that wasn't me,
Mhm.
so, and then I got confirmation later.
Mhm.
And so it's when you start going through those types of things, being around people and experiencing physical stuff that they're feeling.
Yeah.
And once you identify that it's them, not you, it goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. That does that all everything, I think one thing that is so profound that I keeps getting supported, and I'm sure you've had this experience too, is how much it all comes back to meditation.
Or just observation, quiet observation. But same, I guess you could call that a meditation too.
Right. I guess the reason why is because that is the sort of most um, deliberate way to be with oneself and um, develop the most possible robust experience and sensory experience of this is who I am, so that when, like you're talking about, when you're getting energy from other people, you're aware of it. Like the only way you get that is when you've really sort of um, focused the time and the attention around this is me, this is my state. And there's a lot more nuance within that bubble of consciousness and observation and stuff. But a lot of things that we are interested in exploring around the powers of being human, from telekinesis to remote viewing and astral projection, and like all of those things, they all start with meditation.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different kinds of meditation. I really am
That's true. Right, exactly. Even within meditation, there's a whole books and books and books of different variations. Yeah, sure.
I'm a big fan of Vipassana meditation,
Mm.
especially when you're first starting out. They offer free courses, like 10-day courses. There's like a day orientation, 10 days of meditation, and then a day, of coming out of it, because it's very shocking to go back to the real world after that type of meditation.
Mm.
But the reason it's so powerful is it's pure observation.
Mhm.
It's just observation the whole time, and it's 10 hours a day
Wow.
in a group.
Yeah.
Um, and all you're doing is scanning your body up and down and up and down and up and down. And whenever you feel a sensation, you focus on it, and you have to let go of all expectation,
Mhm.
all, um, and you watch your emotions. Where are they in your body? Feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. And not trying to make it go away, not trying to move it, zero intention. And I'll give an example. Now this isn't going to happen it's going to be different for everybody, but it, for one, teaches you how to be still, and the whole time, this whole 10 days, you're not allowed to talk to anybody, and you're not allowed to look in anybody's eyes.
Mm.
And so it's a very inward experience. And they house you and they feed you the whole time. It's completely free. It's really, they'll ask for a donation at the end, but it's really an amazing offer. And they've helped so many people this way. But the reason it helps more than anything else, it helps drug addiction, because they teach you how to watch your feelings and your emotions without reacting. And reacting is usually the biggest problem in people's lives.
Mm.
They don't know how to just look at something and then evaluate it or just be with it. So I was sitting in this, I've done this a few times, not recently, but one time I was sitting in meditation and I had awful sciatica. And it was very, very painful. And, each hour I could sit for about 15 minutes without pain. And then it would just creep in and get worse and worse and worse till I was in intense pain at the end of the hour. But I did it. And I just watched the pain, because it's, for some reason, it's less painful when you are looking at it, doing nothing else, and you're just watching it and observing it. On the third day of this, I was looking at it, looking at it, looking at it. and poof, it just dissolved. It just went away,
Wow.
and it didn't come back,
Wow.
you know? So I don't know what that was, but
Mhm.
I think it's a very powerful form of healing.
Mhm.
And that's where that allowing comes back in, you know?
And imagination,
No,
visualization.
there's zero imagination. Well, I suppose you're looking inside your body,
That's what I'm saying.
but are you
Like,
really imagining it? Or are you literally, you're imagining a screen going through your body, but those feelings are real and you're noticing them. The
right.
pains are real, the sensations are real, and you're just paying attention to them.
Mm.
And you can feel where they are in your body,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. No, this is interesting. I'm not, obviously I'm not implying that if it's imagined, the implication being it is not real. It's
Hmm.
definitely real. You're definitely feeling the pain. I guess where I'm sort of um, trying to tie things together is that you're sitting with it and you're focusing on it, and that's what you're addressing here. You're saying I'm focusing on the pain. I'm not imagining it. But I'm curious because I think that you're also visualizing the area and what that looks like in a sense. Are you not?
No, I
No?
mean, I know where it is in the body, and if
Hmm.
an image comes to me, I look at it. And by the way, I'm not supposed to just focus on that the whole time. The whole time you're going up, you know, you're going forward and back. Where you notice the whole front of your body, the whole back of your body, and everything like slices of your body as you're
Yeah.
going through. You're paying
Okay.
attention to how you feel, and
Okay.
then you notice here how you
Hmm.
feel, and
Hmm.
then you notice here how you feel.
Hmm.
And each time you're noticing that pain,
Hmm.
but you're not sticking with it. It's just like you're letting it pass along with every other observation. Now,
Gotcha.
there are times, that it's, I don't know if they told us to focus on a spot for just a second or two, um, or not. I'll have to go back and figure that out.
But that is still visualization, and this is all in the. I mean, again, I'm creating a context here
Mhm.
because when you were initially talking about um, visualizing, clearing your energy field, to me this sounds very very similar. You're imagining this movement and scanning through your body, which is a deliberate intention, a present intention where you're perceiving things that an outside person would not be seeing. So you're visualizing that.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the only reason I'm connecting these is again because it's something which um, I'm trying to do more of and get better at. I think one of the things that can be challenging around visualization is can be the persistence of unwanted or random thoughts still coming in. Again, that's why we go back to meditation and practice meditation, how important that is. But for example, if I'm trying to visualize something that I want, there can be that kind of persistent monkey mind that comes in with unwanted thoughts. And I think for all of us who are, still trying to get a handle on this, it can be hard to we can say like, well, I don't know if I imagined it or if it was just a random thought. That kind of question that comes up when we get the advice from someone wise and experienced around doing this. We say, well, I don't know what's real because or what I'm imagining because these other thoughts are coming in too. So,
Yeah. I learned transcendental meditation in
mhm,
Fairfield, Iowa, where Maharishi International University was. And so I kind of got, and I meditated with a group there for a while. But transcendental meditation is another form of meditation. And what I notice is, well, first of all, Vipassana meditation, the reason your thoughts don't come to you because you're actively doing something. You're
right, right,
active, so the thoughts don't come in as much.
yeah,
But in terms of transcendental meditation, they say thoughts are normal.
right,
That's the mind. Let
right,
them go. So I noticed that when I very first started, maybe for the first 3 to 6 months, my mind would just go and go and go. But you just stick with it.
right,
And and what I noticed is we were told to do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, and you'll notice that the mind will just need to empty out all this stuff it's been carrying. And so it goes on and on and on sometimes, the emotion, the hurt, the old memories, it all just comes out. But after a while, you realize the rest of your day is more peaceful
Mm-hmm.
because the mind knows that it's got these moments to let
Right.
go.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah. It
And
sounds
then,
like it's almost like the opposite of I don't know, not traditional meditation, but to kind of welcome, to
what
know
you
what's
think
happening, to
about
welcome. And
meditation.
there's also a mantra, right? Isn't there a mantra in
Yeah, you're
meditation?
given a mantra to
Yeah.
say over and over and over again in your head while you're
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is after, and it's different for everybody, but after about 4 or 5 months, maybe 3 months, I started dropping out of thought while I was meditating. So all of a sudden, I would now my head wouldn't drop, but you would just all of a sudden feel like you dropped into nothingness. And you would come right out of it with like this intense peace.
Mm.
And you just feel whole and beautiful and wonderful and filled, just you just feel
Mm.
you know.
Mm-hmm. I know
And
that David Lynch has been doing that for most of his adult life, and
uh,
he he's the director, and he pulls a lot of his attributes most of his ideas to that practice. Do you still do that regularly, or do you different kinds of meditation?
I fall into the category of people who learn something and then kind of stopped practicing it. But I really, 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 you know, I started to try to incorporate those into my daily life, but I have to go back to doing my twice daily meditations or more. And I'm getting guidance that I should at least do an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, and I don't have the self-discipline yet.
Mm.
Cancel.
But you do
Bad
meditate. You do
thought.
meditate, but just not.
Not often. Not
Oh,
as
okay.
often as I should.
Yeah.
I do meditate,
Yeah.
but and because I've had years of experience, it's pretty easy for me to meditate.
Mm.
But at the same time, regular meditation is different than once in a while on your
Mm.
body, on your psyche, on your emotions.
Mhm.
Every part of your life flows better
Mm.
when you meditate regularly,
Mhm.
even if it's just 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. And, it's kind of like it's the same thing. How much better you feel when you get out in nature, when you exercise, when you feel really healthy,
Yeah. Yeah.
everything flows better.
Yeah.
Same with meditation and,
Yeah.
and the next level up meditation,
Yeah.
you know, with meditation. Yeah. Do you have a daily practice?
Yeah. With meditation, it's funny. It's not funny. Less lately. Well, here's I guess what I should say is that I have had a like a 15-20 minute daily meditation for many years. I'd say the past couple of years, I've integrated a morning qigong or yoga and breath work. And so I'll have days where I'll do those and then a meditation. But I've noticed that I've been less diligent about the meditation, and my rationale has been, well, I'm doing these other movement breathing exercises, and then I'll sometimes do. I try and still do like a meditation later in the day, um, but but I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure if the movement and the breath work. I think I can tell myself it's kind of the same thing, but it's not. I really don't think it is the same thing as sitting and actually doing meditation. So,
And since we've been doing a certain new type of meditation, with tones, uh, that enters a new element. But I will say, I used to be able to meditate laying down, but I will say it is, and I've been taught that it's important to sit preferably cross-legged.
yeah,
And that's mainly because of how the energy travels in the body.
yeah,
Your feet are back towards your root chakra.
Hmm.
and the way the energy travels around. So and then your hands are close to your knees.
Hmm.
So you're almost like your energy flows a little bit more self-contained
Hmm.
and or it's condensed.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you're sitting vertical,
Yeah.
you're actually aligning with the energies of the earth. If you're horizontal, you're not really aligning with the energies the way they flow from the earth.
Hmm.
And so that's okay. We sleep that way. But this is the best way to meditate.
Right. And ideally facing north. Is that, are you aware of that?
Um, I don't know about meditation, sleep. Ideally, your head to the north.
Hmm.
And if the earth is a big toroidal energy field and
Yeah.
we're a big toroidal energy field,
Yeah.
then we're aligning.
Yeah.
And we are connected to the earth energetically, whether we like it or not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not that we don't like it, but we're
Whether we're
absolutely
aware of it or not, or believe
right.
it or
There
not.
you go.
Yeah, for
Right,
sure. Yeah.
right. It's so interesting in our classes learning about the physicality of the metaphysical that we're learning.
Mm.
You
Hmm. Yeah.
know, is
Yeah.
metaphysical really meta? I mean, it's real.
No, it is. And I think that's one of the things that brought you and I independently to these groups is that, like, I don't even feel like I begin to really understand most of what's being talked about in the technical sense, pine cone kissing noses, like what, like really those getting into the details of that. But the fact that it's being explained in different ways, and just being part of the present to the discussion with slightly different points of view and different verbiage. For me, as I think like you, as a rational scientific type of person, like just having that there is very, very important. So to your point about the Earth's field, um like, yeah, no, I know that's real. It's not about a belief at all. And I really appreciate that there are those that really do understand it, and I'm working on understanding that and all these other type of things, which again overlap with visualization and as well, right? Like a big part of what we talk about with Dave, um, that comes up is like essentially how real the imagined our imagination is, and that's something I'm still trying to get a handle on.
I think it's important to be able to visualize these things. I mean, it's the vast majority of the way that I can learn. In fact, when I was younger, I think that's why I couldn't communicate very well. I think that maybe I came from a place that was more psychic and transferred things through images
Mm,
because I used to get snapshots,
mhm,
snapshot understandings of things. But as soon as I tried to open my mouth, I could never explain what I was feeling.
mm.
And then I would just talk and talk and talk, thinking, no, that's not right, and just go on and on and on.
Yeah,
And I could never get to the point because I just couldn't put words to what I was feeling.
yeah. Well, I can't help but hear that that sounds kind of like the way that, you know, other beings communicate telepathically. So it's almost like you became human and just like having to find the right words as opposed to the kind of telepathic downloads, which seems to be
Yeah.
more
How do you
common.
create a string of words, in a
That,
short
yeah,
time that
yeah,
explains this,
yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's interesting, even remote viewers, as I'm sure you know, when they talk about getting information, it's not like it's in text form. It's just immediate. They'll just get a whole, and then it can take 15, 20 minutes to communicate what was just like instantaneous. And I
Hmm.
think to those who are not haven't looked into it and given much attention, they can seem like this is fake, right? Because how could a person, if you don't know any better, um, imagine going to a place and then all of a sudden have all this information? Like, okay, obviously they're just making it up, but once you learn about this stuff and do the research, you come to understand that this is it's legit.
Very real. Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe that's something that like you kind of had to relearn in this lifetime.
I absolutely did.
Yeah.
And I really think that a lot of people, not everybody, um, they're born in tough situations. I didn't have it. It is tough, nearly as tough as many people in the world. So I'm not going to complain at all. I was very, very fortunate. Um, but the only way we really learn is to experience it.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what anybody else tells you. If
Yeah,
you understand what it feels
yeah,
like to feel pain and frustration, to feel alone, to feel abandoned, to feel, you know, frightened. And, if you don't know those feelings yourself, how can you help somebody else who's going through it?
yeah,
How did you get out of it? How did
yeah,
you deal with it? And I also think our consciousness is so connected to the rest. I think we really are one big being,
sure.
expressing ourselves in millions and billions and trillions of ways. And all of that information kind of is, um, I mean, it goes to source. Source is, what do you call, I mean, what is God? What is source? I'm still trying to figure that out. I've learned so many different direct definitions. So many people, believe different things, but, I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, I
Yeah,
can say it's consciousness,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
light consciousness.
yeah,
Um, but anyway, everything seems to come back to the central point. And so, like, source is experiencing your experiences while they're experiencing my experiences. And since I'm part of the source too, I'm eventually getting what you're learning, what I'm learning,
yeah,
everybody else is learning, whatever beings are all over the planet, animate, corporeal, non-corporeal, uh, alive, not alive, anything, everything on other planets. It's all collected in source
yeah,
in terms of a collection of information.
yeah.
And, supposedly human beings are supposed to be different than any other species. Now, I don't really understand what that means quite yet. Like, why are we different?
Yeah.
Other beings have souls,
Yeah.
but what's different about us? And I'm wondering if it's the emotions,
That
because
does seem to be a big part of it. Yeah, it does seem to be a big part of it. Right. I don't understand either, but that's something that comes through a lot of outlets, a lot of sources. Um, and of course, that's something that like our entire human history has been maintained and controlled and, inhibited in such a structured way. Like our society is so structured so that for us, the idea of you know, having more capabilities just seems ridiculous because we're so inundated with this information that reinforces the notion that we are very basic, simple, evolved beings, and we're mostly inclined towards, money and power and fighting and stuff like that. So the idea that like we're big, powerful, love, creative beings, like we get slivers of that, but it still seems like a stretch of the imagination.
well, we've been dumbed down. We don't even know who we
That's
really
true.
are
There's been
yet.
a lot of dumbing down. Yeah.
Our memories have been, erased. And I don't know if that's by somebody else or even ourselves to come and have a pure experience. I
That's a
don't know.
great point. Yeah, I'm not clear on that either. Like it's happening, but how much of that is an external thing, like the death traps and the reincarnation cycle is like a technological mechanism versus you hear from the other side too, which is like, oh, well, you have to forget, otherwise you'll never grow and learn. It's something that's just very natural. Yeah, I don't know what ultimately what you say.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to forget all the time, but I think um, there's certain times it's important to forget if there's certain things you don't understand. Like,
Right, but
um,
in terms of the reincarnation cycle,
right.
yeah,
I'm saying the same thing.
yeah, okay,
There's times it's important to come with no memories. Um, but then other species, other species around the galaxy or beyond, they hold their memories from
hmm
life to life, and they
yeah,
don't have to relearn things.
yeah.
So what is that? And but we've also heard Earth is like the most potent school. Is that,
hmm
I don't know the right word, potent, but
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
because we're having to face the most challenges in the shortest amount of time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so we really, have to learn fast.
Yeah.
And, a lot of other races don't have the turmoil that we have here and the
Right.
manipulation we have here. And, you know, it takes quite a bit of effort uh, to see it and not let it affect you,
Yeah.
create around it, you know, and not be controlled by it. That's a
I mean, we're
skill.
used to it, but it is emotionally very, very tough to be human here. And our lifespans are also very short. So that,
There's, yeah.
you hear about this all the time, people who get into their, older, later years and have this sense of sort of wisdom and peace, like they kind of got a handle on things and then, then it's done.
And that's where the Vipassana meditation comes in. You're
Right.
able to watch and go, okay, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just don't let it affect you. You know, there's one thing that really does still affect me very strongly. I'm sure there's others too, but this is what I can think of right now. Watching other people be abused. I,
Mm,
it's one thing to know what's happening and there's nothing I can do about it, so I do this. But if it's happening in front of me, I say
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Unless, there might be circumstances where I don't because it's extremely dangerous to step
Mm,
up and say something. Like I
mm,
don't want to die, you know? Um, but I've if I've seen mothers treat their children bad, I'll go over and say, don't do that.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I won't be that polite either.
Yeah.
You know, um, yeah. I like the YouTube videos where they do social experiments where they have a helpless child sitting on a bench by themselves, and another stranger will come by and kind of like bribe them to go with them, and an adult is sitting next to them, and they want to see what that other adult will do in the situation.
Yeah.
And they showed all of the occasions the adult stood up and said, "No, he'll check with is this, do you know this person, and they'll protect the child."
Mm,
And I just think that, so when I see people help and care for each other, I mean, I cry, I tear up. I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world.
yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how much, well, that's a whole other topic. I was just thinking about what the direction of, the there's like the academic version of trying to understand us, and then there's this kind of interesting, weird, like game show, hidden camera, like all these kind of different versions of that, which is us sitting and watching ourselves because we're so fascinated by who we are and how we interact, and it can be all different versions and extremes, but no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying. When it's genuine, when you can see like a genuine moment in situations where there's the opportunity to love, to express love and support. That's beautiful. Yeah.
I like YouTube for a few things. I mean, obviously, a lot of information can be found online in different video channels, but what I really like is when people put together uh, a long clip of different people helping each other, and people helping animals, and just things that make me feel good
Mhm,
about, when I'm not feeling so well, it's nice to watch videos of other people helping other people.
mhm.
It makes me feel good. Or babies laughing.
So another topic that I'm sure we'll come back to that I'm not going to bring it up now, because what you just said is genuine, the kind of the feeling is genuine. But you know that I also have this, I get, the word trigger is way overused. I don't want to use that word, but I'm very sensitive to the capitalism and technology and the way that it's been manicured and steered and cultivated for us to get that kind of stimulation in a way that I find a little bit manipulative and insidious. So I don't want
Yeah,
to undermine what you just said, but you can see that like that is a whole other topic to explore and talk about.
you're
And
right. You're
yeah.
right. And I actually currently fall in that trap. And that's one thing I need to stop as well. But actually, a lot of the online communications I have I'm benefiting from. But then I'll still jump over and, watch the videos and kind of get caught up in a
No, but I
loop.
get it. I get it because it's, like I I have like in this aversion to it, but then there's a, you know, if I'm on Instagram, and I really try not to use it that much in terms of actually getting stuck in that kind of
Yeah,
slot machine type of cycle,
right.
dopamine hit cycle. But like if I see, you know, bunnies or, you know, a kid and a dog, and it's, and like I'm like, what can I tell you? Like it's, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. And I could see it's how easily it can be to kind of teach the algorithm, this is what I like. So that's, I'm just getting that all day long. So
It's true about,
it's tricky. It's again, it's a tricky relationship between the beauty of being human and emotionally connecting through empathy and around the sense of we are all one. That's wonderful.
yeah.
It's where it gets, it's you know, it's getting utilized by, you know, the forces that be, that gain from our attention, our energy, our money, right? That's where I get, like you are, like you're talking about with when you see it and how much it bothers you because you've had that experience. You know, that's something that I want to, I always, you know, I don't want to like ruin the mood, but I feel like I have to like
No, it's
I'm just
absolutely.
it really bothers me when that kind of manipulation and how abundant it is.
Well, yeah. And if I wasn't doing that, I could be meditating or doing other productive things,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
Well, that's why the practice is important. The routine
Yeah.
is important.
Or out in
This
nature.
time of day, and you know, whatever it is, this is the time, and to be strict about that, to be diligent about that time.
Yeah,
Is
I'm gonna put that in my planner, my schedule. Um, anyway, there's back to the original point. That's
yeah.
my big blockage point. Is like it's like why am I afraid to put my planner together?
Hmm.
Because, then I'm gonna have to follow it. And
Hmm.
it's like there's this underlying fear that I don't know what it is. Either that or there's something else blocking me, that I don't know about.
Hmm.
And so I I'm trying to just push myself through it, but I've just been stalling and stalling and stalling and stalling, and other things come up that are important things, but
Yeah.
I shouldn't
Yeah.
be that shouldn't be on the back burner.
Yeah.
It should be
No,
my
it's
priority.
funny. It came up early on in our conversation, and it's clearly still a challenge. So is there a way that visualization could, I is there a way that
Maybe
visualization could, like if you're,
picture
if,
it done.
because
Yeah,
it sounds like you're, what just popped out is maybe there's some sort of unconscious blockage that's happening. Is there a way that visualization, you could address this invisible unconscious block?
I
Is
think
there
so.
some way of cutting that or something like that, pushing that away?
Well, just like anything else you manifest, if you picture the outcome and feel it good, feel it done, feel proud of yourself, feel, all of the positive emotions of it already being done, that's a popular, I've manifested things before that way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but why haven't I done that? I'm going to figure this out and then I'm going to explain how I did it.
Okay, that sounds good. Um, l- huh.
I've looked at
It's
different.
probably not an intellectual exercise though, right? Like figuring it out, I
No, it's
feel like,
emotional. It's
yeah,
totally emotional,
okay,
absolutely emotional. And
yeah.
I'm not the only one in my family that struggles with this. So maybe it's ancestral, you know,
Yeah.
but
So maybe you need to start with clearing ancestral traumas of some kind.
maybe I need to cut those ties myself, not to
Yeah,
my family, per se, but
yeah,
those particular energies,
yeah. I
traumas.
read this book recently called How to Heal Your Ancestral Roots. I think that's
Hmm.
what it's called. So it's a similar type of thing. Is, you know, it's meditative, it's imagining, and yeah, clearing out stuff that we normally don't think of as even existing, but it is there. And so empowering ourselves through um, clearing those away.
Part of it is the fact that I'm a bit, because of that, I feel scattered because my mind keeps going all these different directions. And maybe that's why I'm having trouble getting to it because it feels overwhelming. But I think once I no longer have a scattered mind because I'm organized, then I won't have any trouble at all,
Yeah.
you know, and I'll get things done easily.
maybe that's where the block, maybe the reason you have the block there is um because then they're going to have the responsibility of actually getting everything done.
I've thought about that. I
Yeah.
mean, and then I think, why would I be afraid of that? I do have one fear.
Because that would be failure. Like if you don't, then it'd be, you could
Maybe
not.
I'm repeating the failure routine because I wasn't used to failure when I was younger, but I got used to my yoga wear business failed,
Hmm.
other things failed. We were forced to move
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
times. And each time makes you feel less and less and less and more anxious, more anxious, more
Yeah.
anxious. And so in a way, it's a reliving a trauma, you
Yeah.
know, because I would, if I'm able to move past this, then maybe I get out of the trauma. And there's this thing about familiar trauma is weird. It's like it's even though it's not good, it's familiar. And we're
Yeah.
always afraid to let go of the familiar,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very
you
key. Like let's underline that with a lot of lines. That's very key. Yeah. Mhm.
know? I don't know what else to say about that.
No, I think that's it. The trauma is familiar. And I think that generally speaking, we have this association of trauma being, um, you know, like a very, it's very upsetting, but it's like, I think, at least for me, I feel like the general sense is that trauma is like, it's a specific things. It could be a pattern, it could be multiple times, but it's something that's like a terrible event in someone's life. But I think I don't put words in your mouth, but the idea of trauma is also something which is um it just becomes part of like our experience of life, and it becomes in a way like morphs into kind of like a lesson, or like just a familiar thing that like part of becomes like we identify it in a way like a part of who we are. So when someone says like, I got some advice for you, we're saying like, back off, man, like this is who I am. And we really hold on to it, even though it's not empowering to us, it's not for our better, but we've been through it. And so because we've been through this thing, we're still holding on to it because we have this sense of like this is who I am. It's a sense of identity, right? And then that goes back to what you're talking about with meditation and the observer, is empowering the idea of observing this life we're living is actually a very healthy place to be. It's not a detaching. Um, the challenge and the pain is when we hold on to our story, which includes a great deal of negative, painful things, and we hold on to that because in some ways it takes away the responsibility. Because if we um let's say we gotten in a place where we felt like our ideal place of success, then what happens? Like what happens if you got to your list and you did everything on the list? Would your life be better, or would you feel like the possibility you'd be setting yourself up for the possibility of failure again, which is a painful, familiar feeling?
Mm, if I got everything done, I don't think I would go back to it because I have such a bad memory of it. I would consciously say, no, we're not doing that again. You know, um, I think one thing that I might be afraid of is getting stuck in one job, in one position.
Sure. Yeah, you've mentioned that. Yeah. Because
And
you have all
so
these interests. So how can you live a life where you are doing these multiple things?
I've kind of not been able to decide what is my great passion, what is my
Yeah.
great love.
Yeah.
So I have directions at moments, and then like I keep getting distracted by all these things I love to do. But I've not been able to do the single direction focus, which is what you need to achieve something.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to really focus on the sound healing.
Yeah.
And when, other than starting some online groups where there's chats, which actually has taken up too much of my time now,
Yeah.
um, when somebody else is asking me to get involved in something, even though I love it, I'm saying no, no.
Yeah.
This is my focus. I'm going to do this.
Good.
If
That's
it,
good. That's
no
progress.
matter what, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter whether it's going to end up being my greatest passion,
Hmm.
because it is a passion.
Hmm.
And if I finally focus all of my efforts in one direction, then if I get, once that's achieved, not before, or maybe somewhere along the way, but once I get cleaned up and I know I'm on my path, a single focus, I might get redirected to something that's close to it or related, but not something that's going to stop me in my path and bring me on another tangent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
That's good. It's good that you have that perspective. Yeah. That awareness.
at my age, hopefully we're going to de-age and the age won't be a matter anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I'm thinking to myself, I'm still young enough to make this happen,
Hmm.
but if I wait too long, will I still have that opportunity?
Hmm.
So it's like, I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm not going to blow it, you know?
Hmm.
That's why I'm pushing through my fears as much as I can,
Hmm.
on
Great.
purpose, as fast as I can.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
That's why we're talking here.
Yeah.
Record.
We've been recording for like 2 hours.